Hello, What Culture world. My name is Simon Miller, and I just want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the Why series, the series where we ask why. It's nice and simple, and just remember, it's a bit of fun, like when you go down to the beach and you're walking along and you're having a lovely ice cream, or you then see a kid's sandcastle and you walk over to it and just stamp on it. Just ruin that sandcastle. Well, no, that's not fun. Why did you do that? Why? Anyway, I love Matt Riddle, and I think he's one of the most exciting performers to come along to the pro wrestling world in quite some time. Why? Here's why. Now, the best thing about the former UFC star is his attitude. I've seen him in loads of interviews and got to interview him myself when Matt Riddle did come to WCPW, and his candidness is wonderful. He will talk to you about anything, and he's really open and honest. I appreciate that. I respect it. It's not like he says all this stuff for headlines either, because when you talk to him or when you listen, using your ears, you can tell how passionate he is and how much he wants to make sure he has creative control over his own fate, because he knows who he is as a person and he knows how he wants to portray that. And to be honest, when you got that down, well, you're halfway there to being a pretty good pro wrestler, because he did MMA for ages and now he's in wrestling and he's loving it. I like that. Wonderful. And maybe this is because he has done the rounds in MMA and he worked for a massive company like UFC, and he feels a bit like he got screwed over, so he's like, I'm not going to let that happen again, and I can respect that. And because of his background, he does feel super legitimate, and that is always good. He feels real and he feels relatable, and when you do that, have a guess what happens. As we've said 1,000 times on the Why series, people buy in. That's why I bought in, because when I saw Matt Riddle and when I chatted to him, I was like, I know who you are, and I can now apply that to the rules of pro wrestling. That's simple, that. Nice and simple, like that car advert thing. Is it a meerkat? But it's all like, ooh, simples. And you're like, this has been going on for about 22 years. We stop this now. Jeez. This certainly seems to be what's happening with Riddle, because not only is he in constant demand, but when he goes somewhere and comes out the other side, there's always a new buzz about him. He's also genuinely unique as the whole laid-back Californian dude, because it's a nice juxtaposition. Big word there. Out of the ring, he's all laid back and cool and groovy, but in the ring, he's gonna kick your ass. And let's face it, his transition from MMA to pro wrestling has been ridiculous. He took to it like a duck to water, going to show that if he puts his mind to an athletic endeavour, he's probably gonna come out the other side doing pretty well in it. Or at least that's what he's doing so far. You have to have something deep inside of you to do that. It's like a natural gift, meaning he was born with it. That's a bit annoying. I don't think I was born with it. I'd like to have been born with that. Screwed. This is why he's been able to have good matches with pretty much everybody on the indie scene, and if you do go Google him now and watch some of his matches, I've no doubt you're going to be impressed. And he doesn't wear shoes. That's cool, that's different, no shoes. I mean, Rusev did that for a while, injured himself, but so far, Matt Riddle hasn't, so keep off the shoes. Hashtag that. In short, there are a few hotter talents out there right now on the indie scene, and this is even before we've seen him in New Japan. Obviously, when you go to New Japan, usually your stock rises even further, and I'd imagine that's definitely something he wants to get involved with. Because why wouldn't you be? New Japan right now is whooping everything. So you want to be involved in the whooping. Given his pedigree in mixed martial arts too, Riddle doesn't hold back, and he really lays his stuff in, and he wants to make it look real, and even better than that, he wants his opponent to come at him that way as well. So his whole thing is about, I want this to seem as believable as it possibly can, like it's an actual fight. And you know who loves all of that kind of stuff? The strong style stuff. New Japan. The whole promotion is basically built on that kind of idea, so you've got to imagine that when he does eventually get there, this stock we've already mentioned is only going to get higher, and he's going to become like the super indie worker, or at least the super non-WWE worker that everybody wants to see. Everybody will pay their money to go, they'll buy his merchandise, they'll talk about him online, they'll wave flags that say Riddle on them. And plus, when he is there, he's going to go toe-to-toe with some of the best wrestlers in the world. So this can only be a good thing, and it can only help him get to more and more success. And that's also why when all these boxes have been ticked, Matt Riddle needs to head on over to the WWE. Now there's definitely interest there because Triple H himself has dropped Riddle's name in interviews, so they know what they can do. They know he's talented, and hopefully one day they're ready to work with him. There is more to it than just that though. I'm sure a lot of pro wrestlers are badasses in the real world, but just because you train jiu-jitsu once a week and they mention that on commentary, well, that doesn't filter through to us. We need more than that. If we want to see you as a credible and legitimate threat, we need something that's much more shoved in our faces. With Riddle, you can't ignore that, because a huge part of his life and a huge part of his career was fighting in the UFC. So if you push that right and you make sure that ties into his character, as well as having this other side where he's just this nice guy, well, that's going to help you no end. He has the potential to be the ultimate babyface in the WWE when you think about it. Your best friend and the guy you want to hang out with outside of the ring, and a mean destroyer within it. I like that mix. I like it a lot. Do it with a wooden spoon. It's not like this hasn't worked in the past either. Kurt Angle is proof positive of that. And then, of course, there's Brock flipping Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar was already a terrifying beast before he left for the UFC, but after he went and did all that and came back, forget about it. 10 times what he was before. 10 times. He had that aura that just couldn't have been created if that hadn't have happened. And at times, you actually thought, holy shit, Brock Lesnar is going to kill somebody for real. You could easily do the same with Riddle, pushing him as a shoot fighter that can handle people with ease, but also highlighting the fact that he's a happy-go-lucky chap away from this. And that is important, because we don't just want a carbon copy of Brock Lesnar. We want to take all of the good, but make sure that we make Matt Riddle an individual at the same time. And that does that. That does it right there. It's the same pedigree, and it would allow Riddle to stand out straight away, and the icing on the cake would be, look how good he's doing when he actually has a wrestling match. I don't think he's had a bad one today, and if you take that record and then put it on the grandest stage, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've got a superstar on our hands. And literally with me, my hands never stop moving. The real issue is how well Matt would handle the WWE machine. We've already touched on the fact that Riddle's very keen to come out and say he wants control over his career and he wants creative input, and that's not necessarily something he'd get from WWE. In his eyes, he sees it as he's writing his own movie, and then a big studio comes in and goes, we don't see it like that, we're going to rewrite all this. And that's not what he wants. Fair play to him. But if we're to look how the likes of Samoa Joe and AJ Styles have been handled on Raw or SmackDown, there is the possibility that we can find a nice compromise here, that we can find something that will work. It's not like WWE can't do it, because they can, and Samoa Joe especially for the last 6 weeks or so, as I'm recording this, has basically been what he was on the indie scene. So it's there. It's happened. Do it again. It would also be stupid if WWE did try and do anything else with Riddle. He's so entertaining because of how unique he is. You can tell that Matt Riddle is there and he's able to push it out like this. So why would you want to change that? That would be stupid. I know we've seen WWE turn guys into staples of the company within weeks, and in many ways, that's exactly what they have done with someone like Shinsuke Nakamura, which is sad, and yes, you should cry tears about that. Again though, look at Kevin Owens. Now, he's not as savage as he was when he was Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor, but it's still there. The foundations are still in place, and I'm sure we could do something similar with Matt Riddle. Take that and WWE a bit, but not too much. Find the balance. Then as ever, there is the case of the roster split. Now, we still need much more talent on both Raw and SmackDown, so if you're not going out of your way to get people like Matt Riddle, then what are you doing? We need depth. He's the depth. Riddle joining either of those ranks opens up multiple possibilities, and that's what I want as a wrestling fan. I want new feuds, and I want matches between guys that I know, even if the general public doesn't. You can introduce them through WWE TV, get them excited, and then the match means something to everybody. Hooray! I do think Riddle will find his way to the WWE eventually, but when that will be, I don't know, and to be honest, I would like him to have a run with New Japan first, just to see how he gets on. But as long as he keeps going from strength to strength, well, that's alright by me. Which I'm sure Riddle is ecstatic to hear. I'm sure he's been up at nights going, oh, I hope all my choices are alright with Simon from WhatCulture, otherwise what am I going to do? And for those people that always react when I say things like that, it's sarcasm. Sarcasm, being an asshole. Now don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about Matt Riddle in the WWE. Like, share and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com to read even more articles on the internet, and follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. I am Simon from WhatCulture. This was the Y series. Had an itchy nose, so I itched it. Let's finish things there. Finishing on a scratch.
You there, do you want to prove you're a wrestling smart ass? Then answer me this. Who was the first Alliance Invader to win a championship in the Invasion storyline? like awesome, it was the Hardcore Championship. Did you get it? I don't care. To test yourself and whatever friends you might have, buy the new WhatCulture Wrestling trivia game available at shop.whatculture.com.